All right, guys, welcome back to my podcast. I have an incredible world-changing guest with me today, influencer, author, and motivational speaker, Dr. Billy Alsbrooks. What's up, Dr. Billy?
Man, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for having me on, man.
I appreciate you, dude. It's you're part of every single one of my days, and even the people that work with me. When we're working, we're listening to you. I got a 12-month-old, baby boy. Even him, I'm sitting there like speaking to him. I'm like, all right, champion. Like, I know you're in there. I know that, that spirit's in there. I said,
Right.
boy, you're a fighter, a champion, like speaking it over to us. So it's like, it's incredible just to be able to have you on today. And get more into your life.
Man, I appreciate it, bro. Man, God is good, man. He brought us through the struggle, man. Got us here. I started at the bottom. Now we're here, right?
Now we're here, man. And the future is the limit. So, dude, I'm going to start us off with 3 icebreaker questions just to get to know Billy a little bit more. All right, first one's kind of funny, but if you were a professional wrestler, what would your stage name be?
I don't know, man. I have to go with me now, man. Like, for years I used the A-list with, when I was in the rap game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the way, I just at the very end of my career, I was like, man, I just got to be me, man. You know what I mean? I just got to be the real me. The most powerful I can be is when I'm in the center of who God made me to be. So I just run with my real name just like I'm doing now, man. So
that's the truth, man. I looked you up on Wikipedia, and so I was looking up Dr. Billy Alsbrooks, and it said, Dr. Billy Alsbrooks, better known as White Dog. And I'm like, no, not better known now.
Nah, not now.
Not now. That's like Paul, man. That pretty name change.
Right. That's real.
That's real. All right. Second question. If they were to make a movie about your life, what actor would play your character?
Good question, man. You stumping me over here.
I'll tell you who I would pick, and this may not be the truth.
Who would you pick?
I would go with a young. Oh my gosh, he was married to Angelina Jolie.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, young Brad Pitt.
We could go with that, man. We good with maybe Matt Damon too. I always been a Matt Damon fan, man. He always captured the truth in his acting, man. I always was a fan of him. So
that's it, man. All right, last question. If you could only have one, would you rather pause where you're at right now and stick with it, or would you rewind and re-strategize?
Man, right now I'm in a great space right now, man. Like there's some things in the past that, of course, that, I wish I could redo and revamp. But I also believe that there were lessons learned in those times, and I'm coming into the blooming season from all the learning and all the mistakes and all the wrong turns. Now I'm starting to, bear fruit in the knowledge and understanding of those mistakes, man. And to be honest, I feel like I'm in a really good space right now, and I'm really on fire on the inside creating. And there's probably not a better place that I'd rather be right now than right here,
Dude, I love it. So I was listening to, especially about you. Do you feel like, because in my life, some of the things that I thought were used against me were actually my greatest propellants, right? When people were coming at me or stealing from my business, at the time it hurt so bad, but it actually became so much better for me, down the road. And it's not like I became better, but it actually put me in a situation that was much better. So you feel like that's been in your life?
Oh yeah. That, if you really look back at my history, the turning point of my life was the panic attacks, man. I don't know how much your listeners know about me, but I had a 7-year all-out inner war going on with panic attacks and PTSD. My father had died in front of me unexpectedly, and the trauma from that, man, I went to war with that for 7 years, man. It really, literally just robbed every single thing that I had built for 17 years in the music business as an artist, producer, and on-air personality. It just ripped everything away from me in those 7 years. And it was the worst time of my life, the darkest time of my life. But it also was the greatest preparation in my life, the greatest turning point of my life, the greatest victory of my life, and the point that really connected me back to God and got me on this journey that I'm doing today. It's kind of like I would never want to go back and experience that again, but at the same time, I wouldn't be here today talking to you had I not went through the struggle. So, when I talk about it a lot of times on the videos now, gorgeous is the struggle. We don't see it at the time, and we don't see it at the time, but later on, man, we look back and we say, wow, God had a plan, man. What the devil meant for harm, God made good. We just have to trust him during those dark moments, man. And that's really where I learned and found myself, man, was in the dark, man. When I got everything ripped away and was just one-on-one, just me and God, there was nothing left, man. That's when I truly found myself, man. That's where the treasure hunt started. And God found me in that moment and showed me who I was, man, and put me on this journey today. So sometimes what we see is the tragedy, what we see as the trauma is the blessing. It just doesn't look like it because it's wrapped up in a funky little box. It's not the prettiest box under the tree, so nobody goes for it, man. But the blessing, the treasures hidden in that dirt and the ugliness, man, is the beauty, man. So my darkest time, going through that war, man, is what made me today. I would not be doing this today had I not went through that struggle.
A lot of people ask, like, if you could go back to that person and tell them something, what would you say? And for me, like, I go back and I look, like, I couldn't have told that me something. I had to go through the pain, and I had to go through that to be ready to hear, because, like, people were telling me the Bible's always there. Like, all that knowledge, everything that I should have been doing was always there, but I wasn't ready to hear, like, pain is the greatest mentor. But do you feel like those people who are in the desperation, in that, they've got the panic attacks like you were, what's the solution? There's not going to be a cure-all, but what's that solution to come out of that?
It's the framing, man. The way you frame the circumstances. See, I was kept in bondage for so long because I had an ineffective and improper, self-defeating mental framing of the situation. The desperation that I was in was actually the invitation to invite God into my life, man. So I was even though it looked on the outside like I was in the darkest, time, and on the inside it felt awful, man, I was at the best place I could be, man. Because when everything else is ripped away and you realize that nothing else is gonna work but God, that is the strongest place that you could ever be in your life, is in that moment right there. And I found that place, you know what I'm saying? And I tell people today, the greater the struggle that you're going through, the greater the destiny you have. Otherwise, the enemy wouldn't be attacking you so hard. So like, I didn't see it that way in the fog, in the cloud, in the dark. I didn't see it that way at the time. But looking back, man, the reason the war was so great because the enemy knew what I was about to do. What God was about to put me on the field and set me loose. You know what I mean? And the enemy knew that. So he knew the only shot he had was to get me in that moment of Christ. And if he didn't get me there, man, there was no stopping. And by turning that thing over to God, God delivered me from him. And he'll deliver anyone, bro, that comes to him with a sincere heart, man, and turns it over, man. He can move in your life in unimaginable and miraculous ways, man. We just have to trust him all the way along, the dark, man. We have to be able to traverse the dark when we can't see anything, when things don't look like they're getting any better. Like that 7 years, every single day I got up, it did not look like anything was getting better. I was praying from the moment I woke up to the moment I, went to sleep, because it was bad. I felt like I was dying every second of the day. I mean, I went to the hospital 12 times in 9 months thinking I was dying. I said my last words to my wife over 30 something times, bro, thinking, it's over. So like I was living in this, literally living in hell in my mind. And every single day I pray, and I didn't see anything on the outside of the inside getting better. And that's okay for, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, year. But man, when you start getting into that second year, that third year, that fourth year, that fifth, you think, man, this is the way my life is going to be. It's never going to change. But God is faithful. God hears. Here's the tears and here's the cries and the prayers that we send up, man. He does what he does, man. He moves in miraculous ways, man. And I just can't give him enough praise and glory, because I remember where I was at, man. It was such a dark spot. And maybe somebody on the other end of this message right here is going through that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're going through exactly what, I went through, the darkness, or you got your own thing, whatever it is, and you're having a hard time getting your footing and believing. But just trust God through this dark time, and he will reward you for that trust. He'll bring you out of it. Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world, man. So just believe.
No, dude, that's the truth. And you're saying like every day didn't look different. And I look at my life, dude, like every single day doesn't seem that different. But when you look back, dude, it's all different. It's completely changed. I look from yesterday, that's not that different, right? But I look back 2 or 3 years ago, I'm like, man, it's completely different. Dude, I look at it like simple, right? It's like those sticky notes, those Post-it notes. You take one of those Post-it notes off of it by itself, there's no weight or nothing to it, right? But you add a bunch of those on, you consistent days, and you can really build something incredible. So with the internet, because you are, I mean, I've only seen maybe one other person out there that's like, around your caliber, which is Eric Thomas. great guy. You didn't have a Billy Alsbrooks that you could continuously feed yourself with. With the internet, dude, I feel like we're in a new era because everything can be so much faster. Things that took 10
Right.
years before only takes 1 year now. So do you feel like, because I do, right? With the content and the things that you have, because if you keep putting that truth in you, things are going to change a lot faster than they did even for you back in that 7 years. So that might have taken you 7 years because you didn't have the access to everything that somebody does now.
Right. Yeah, I had to go through the struggle, man. The years, to me seem forever, but I spent exactly the perfect amount of days in that season that I needed to spend for God to do what He needed to do. It didn't seem like that at the time, but looking back, man, I was right where I needed to be. He was molding and shaping me, and if you're gonna build a skyscraper, man, you have to dig the foundation really, really deep. If you just want a 1 or 2 story house, you don't have to build that deep. But if you want to do something big and you want to do massive change and create, impact in the world, and you want to do something grand, the foundation must be deep, in order to sustain the thing that you're about to build. And God, for 7 years, dug that foundation. And I didn't, particularly agree with his way of doing it at that time. Yeah, his timing and all that. Like, it doesn't make sense. It seems like, just being in a total state of chaos, man. But it was perfection, and I say it over and over, man. Gorgeous is the struggle, man. Gorgeous is a struggle.
All right, tell me what the vision now. I keep hearing over 1 billion lives
1 billion.
to impact, and so I started doing some math, right? So I'm doing some math now. Is that 1 billion lives that you want to impact over over the course of
My
kind of
lifetime.
your lifetime?
Lifetime. Yeah.
So I'm dividing, right? Over 10 years. So 10 years, that's 273,000 people a day.
Yeah, we good.
20 years, 136,000. But it's
God
doable now with the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, like right now, I don't know if you can see it on the wall here, but I've already reached 30 million views. Like between all the channels that are playing my material right now, between mine and other motivational channels that I've got on the material and blasting it out, man. So it is feasible. I mean, I come from the music world. So 1 billion, there's artists all day that hit 1 billion views, 1 billion streams or whatever. And some of them have multiple. You look at the next level artists. Some of them have multiple 1 billion, type of just on one song. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay. And some of these people are secular without God doing that. So I'm like, how much more could God do if God is involved in it, right?
Exactly.
So I'm like, I'm just letting Him do His thing, man. I had set the goal originally a little small. I didn't really include God in the equation. It's like on my own ability, and God made it clear, like, look, you need to invite me in this situation. In order to do that, you're gonna have to dream beyond what you can do on your own ability. Invite me in that space that you can't do, and let me do my thing. So we take the limits off of God, because sometimes we put Him in the box and think we can, because somebody's only done this much that we've seen, therefore we think that's the limit, when that's not the limit at all. You know what I'm saying? We take the ceiling off and say, okay, God, where's the limit, man? You do your thing. I'm gonna show up every single day. I'm gonna give everything I got, and I know I have limits, but with God, all things are possible. So
all things are possible.
Right. And the difference between this and music and what I was doing back in the day and what I'm doing now is I was doing that on my own strength and not really including God in the equation. And now it's like, no, I know I can't do anything. The 7 years that I went through the war made it clear that I can't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like on a mass scale, I can't do anything. So I need God to do anything I do. So that 7 years made that clear to me. So now I'm like, okay, God can do the 1 billion. Billy Alsbrooks can't do 1 billion. You know what I mean? The numbers is not going to get there. But with God, 1 billion is nothing.
Dude, that's what I was saying. God was saying more 1 billion. I'm saying, like, you're saying in a lifetime, I think you're going to reach that a lot faster. With the way that you're going, I'm saying, like, that's a good number, but like for me, with the weight that you're going and the lives that you're impacting, dude, I think that's going to be a lot quicker of a goal. That's what I was asking. Like, you're going to hit it a lot faster and even, than
well, there's several things that could happen too that, world impacting things that could speed this up too, man. I believe God eventually is going to open up China with YouTube. And, there's 1 billion people in China that's untouched by this, bro. So like, as soon as that door is open, bro, like everything will accelerate even a faster speed than it is now. It's really fast now, but wait until they open China up, man. We're coming for all of that. You know, God is just waiting to put his flag down over there. You know what I mean? And
no,
I believe that
dude.
I believe he's pulling strings and facilitating different events in order to make that happen, man. And we just got to be ready when it happens.
I love it. Question is, take me through a day. What's a day like for Billy Alsbrooks?
Well, right now, man, I'm on a different schedule, obviously, man. Usually, at this point in time, I be out on the road.
Before quarantine.
Yeah, back before quarantine, I started a tour. I've been a couple months out on the tour, so about 12 to 14 days a week I'm on the road. You know, different cities, man, doing this speaking tour. So I would pretty much be in a hotel during that time. I would, get up and do my routine. I have certain things I anchor during the day. For one, first thing in the morning, I read one chapter of Proverbs every single day. That's the wisdom. You know, Solomon is the king of wisdom in the Bible, the wisest man to ever live. So every morning I sit down and read one of his chapters there and just sit with, his wisdom under God and have him guide me in leadership and what I'm doing. And I believe that played a big role in him putting me in this position today, because I've been doing it for over 10 years now. Every single morning, never missing, read one chapter of Proverbs. There's 31 chapters. So it's like you read it through a whole month and you start back over, and there's so much in there. I mean, like, I've read it so many times, but every single time I read it, I get another piece out of it, another understanding out of it, more revelation out of it. So I always start with Proverbs. I always try to pour in, when I'm in the shower, things like that, getting dressed, I'm always trying to pour positivity in, motivation in, inspiration, something that, to stir the soul right from the beginning of the day. Usually I eat out almost every single meal, man. I like to go out and be around people in an environment, because I'm creating and I need to connect with people. So I need to see what's going on. I just need to, have that awareness. So I usually go out to lunch, and during that lunch time, I make it my study time. I'm usually there an hour and a half at the restaurant. I do my reading. I do my notebook planning for the day, my top objectives, my top outcomes, the things that, on the task list, what's most important. Working out every single day up until this point when they shut all the gyms down. But usually every single day I was getting it in, And then every single week I release a YouTube message. That's like, the 80-20 rule. The one thing I got to do every single week is I got to get in front of that mic. I got to get this, pencil in my hand, and I got to write. So those things are like non-negotiable. But that side is more right brain. It's more spirit fed and more the right side, creative side. And I can't necessarily put a time on that. Like, I can't say, okay, at Tuesday at 8 o'clock, I'm finna, start working on a message or write poetry. It has to come when it comes. It always comes. God always feeds me, and I always have to, be alert for when he's giving me a message, but it's never usually like a set time. Like on Tuesday, I get it at 8 o'clock. It can happen anytime during the week, but every single week I have to make sure that I get, the top outcome, done, which is that, and make sure I get those messages out, man. So, and then at nighttime, man, I always do a prayer walk every single night, man. I spend an hour. I go out around my neighborhood, or if I'm on the road, I go around whatever it is. I go outside, just get alone and spend that 1 hour alone, just me and the maker. Because, when I was going through the 7-year struggle, that's where I picked up that habit, because I got to the point where there was nothing else working. I've been to, 6-7 therapists for panic attack. It just wasn't working. They gave me medication. It wasn't working. I've been to programs, recovery centers, grief share, you name it. I went to everything, church, men's group, everything. Nothing was working. So when I started having these panic attacks, I picked up this habit. I'd start just going outside and walking this mile-long square block that I lived on. Right. And I just go out there and start talking to God. And when I first went out there, it was out of desperation. I'm out there yelling at him. I'm like, why you put this on me? And the next minute I'm crying, poor me. Yeah. Next minute I'm just numb, like whatever. I'm going through all these emotions or whatever. But out there I found him. Out there he started to move on my life. Out there he started to come in and put me back together. So I honor that today. Even though I'm healed now, I didn't stop doing that thing that brought me out of the struggle. I still honor him every single day and make sure I go out there and say, okay, let me not get ahead of you. Because sometimes when we're doing big things like this, man, it's real easy to get ahead of God. To think when something, I always have to slow myself down, because things will come to me and I'll instantly in my earthly flesh think, okay, I'm going to do something good for that person. I'm going to jump and do it. And I don't consult God about it. And so, here lately, a couple of times I've done that, thinking I was doing the right thing, thinking I was helping somebody, like, oh, I got to, do what God wants me to do. God brought this to my, attention. But really, I didn't stop and say, okay, God, you brought this, or somebody brought this. Let me make sure this is for you. And what do you want me to do? And stop and consult him like that. I just, took it on my flesh, thinking I was doing something good, and I, jump a little early. So those night walks that I have, they kind of keep me grounded and keep me rooted in the word, keep me rooted with my Father to make sure that I made the right decisions. The greater he lifts us up in influence, the greater promotions and the greater, stages that he puts us on, the more we're going to need him, the more we're going to need to be plugged into him to make sure we ain't speaking, that we letting him speak, because if we get up there and try to do it on our own, is where we get ourselves in trouble.
We mess it up, dude. No, that's where you see my hat, EgoLess. EgoLess. That's the, the new brand that I'm putting out there. I don't sell it or anything like that. I just give it to hats, because that's really what we have to do is we have to take our ego and our self outside of it, because because we will mess that up, in ourselves. Now it's not, off topic, but do you feel like that's why some of the great ministers have fallen, is because they were doing such big things and kind of got caught up in that and weren't able to take themselves out of the equation?
I think that was the number one thing I took out of ministry school. I went to ministry college.
Where'd you go to college? I went to Rhema Bible College. Where'd you go?
Faith Christian here in Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah, Faith Christian University. And it was one of the last classes I took, but the teacher told us, about this famous pastor that was asked to do his first, preaching, his first lesson in front of, a big crowd or whatever. And he was just nervous, never got up there in this kind of, environment around this many people. So he knew he couldn't do it, right? Because he knew, like, I'm just a beginner and never even done this, and I've got this big event to do. So he went to God and he was like, I can't do this. I need you to help me give this message. I'm unqualified for this. And, God honored him for reaching and being humble, right? And God blessed him. And when he got up there on the stage and got up there in front of the mic and began to give his message, man, the fire lit up in him and the whole place went crazy, right? Now, as soon as he got done, he got off that stage and hit the first step coming down, the congregation was coming up to him and they began to tell him how great he was. Like, that's the greatest message I ever heard. That's the greatest message ever. And he said, you know what that was?
That was good.
I'm good. Right. He thought it was him. And that was the downfall, because he had been overcome there with the pride and the ego and forgot the one that had spoke and thought it was actually him that was speaking. And that's where we get ourselves in trouble. So I remember that lesson. It stuck with me. That's why every single message that you hear me put out on YouTube, at the very end of that thing, I say, to God be the glory, because I don't ever want to forget who's speaking. When I rapped, I didn't do that. That was me, and I messed everything up. This time, I'll make sure that one thing don't happen. I'm going to make sure that I give credit where credit is due, and to keep me rooted in the one who made this thing happen.
No, dude, I went through that. So I was homeless, right, at 20 years old, living in my car, cleaning Planet Fitness. I was able to sleep and, shower there, because I cleaned Planet Fitness from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning. Went to Bible college from, it was like 9 to 2 in the afternoon. And homeless, so I started reading Think and Grow Rich. I was like, all right, I can change. Yeah, first business, hauling people's trash from the house to the curb. Well, 5 years of grinding, right? I've gone from that to flipping houses to outdoor living, then to roofing. By 25 years old, I'd become a self-made millionaire, and that was my only goal.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
So, but I got prideful, because in me, I did it. You know what I mean? So I was always, then I started seeking more, because I was like, man, the money's not going to make me happy. So I started seeking fulfillment, partying, drinking, and all that stuff, and being prideful.
Right.
Ended up losing it all. Almost ended up taking my life. Right. So fast forward, lost everything, and made it all back 3 times more. Right. So I'm on the, I've made it all back, and we've got some big things going. But now for me, it's just like, it's almost like a cautious thing. It's like, hey, it's not me, because I knew what happened when I was the one controlling it. You know what I mean? Like I remember those times. So now it's like, no, it's not me, but God. You know what I mean?
Amen. 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 But I'm with you, because the times that I've struggled the most, the times that I make those mistakes. And this season has been when I hadn't consulted God first, man. When I try to do it on my own, man. Sometimes we do that. We just get in a hurry, get impatient, or we just think, oh, it looks perfect. It must be from God, and just run.
Yep.
instead of humbling and saying, hold on a second, let me consult you. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him.
That's
And
right.
he shall direct our paths, bro. So we got to make sure we do that. That's the one thing, that will keep us on the right path and also make us useful. Because God will use anybody that will stay humble and give him credit when he moves through their life. He will use anyone. So all we have to do is stay humble and console him, man, and he can do miraculous things through us, man.
No, dude, that's a true, dude. I believe so. One of the biggest things I believe is that the way that you do anything is the way that you do everything, right? So
That's right.
those same principles that you were talking about before, you waking up Proverbs, doing this,
Mm-hmm.
all those steps. No matter, I feel like those are steps that listeners can take, because it doesn't matter if they're an artist, doesn't matter if they're an engineer, whatever. Those things are still necessary to win at whatever they're doing.
We got to be students, man, or whatever it is that God's got us doing, whatever the calling is. We got to study, man. We got to read. We got to prep, and that's one thing that I've really dedicated myself to, is doing a lot of reading, making sure every single day is 30 minutes, hour, every single day, non-negotiable. The word first, and then reading the biographies of great men, self-help books, psychology, theory, philosophy, history, you name it. Like I try to immerse myself in a broad, vast of knowledge, so that when I get out of here to help people, man, I have something to draw from, some ammo to use to help. So that's critical to anybody that God is gonna, put in a position of influence or power. You gotta be ready when you get there. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And just letting God do his thing. We have to play our part, but then we turn it over and let him do his thing. But we still got to do our part.
So talk to me about, so right now it's all about legacy. I was just listening to one minister. He's getting up there in age. He said, even after I die, people are still going to be getting my books. You know what I mean? 'Cause for me personally, I don't look at time as like I'm getting older. I'm, whatever, because we were never created to die, right?
Right.
We're eternal beings. So I don't even look at myself like, all right, I might be, I'm 28 now. But as I get older, I don't feel like I'm really getting older, because I've got an eternity mindset in legacy, right? So I'm not just storing up my treasures here, but I'm storing up in heaven. So talk to me about what that legacy right now for you is, that you're creating.
Well, it started with me right after my father died. The second day after he died, I went to the funeral home. This is where everything God began to move on me, because up until this point when my father had died was my old life. That was, in the music game, thug life, chasing the wild women, the money, the fame, the accolades, the cars, the houses,
What everybody wants.
What they tell us.
What they tell you.
The world tells us. Yeah, what the world tells us is success or whatever. That's what I was chasing. You know what I'm saying? And when my father, passed away, that was the point, the turning point where God came in to my life and began to work on me and prepare me for what I'm doing today. And the second day after he had passed away, I went to the funeral home, and my grandmother had bought plots, 4 plots, one for my grandfather who had already passed away, one for her, one for him, and one for me. So I get over to the funeral home, and he's like, let's go out to the grave site where your dad's gonna be buried. I want to show you that. So we go out there, and he's like, okay, there's your grandfather. He's there. This is where your grandmother's gonna lay, because she was still alive. This is where your father's gonna lay, and here's where you gonna lay. Now, that last sentence, here's where you gonna lay, kind of shook me, because 2 days before I saw my father die right in front of my eyes. I saw the last 10 minutes. I saw the last breath. I saw the struggle. I saw the darkness. I saw the transition. So when he said, here's where you gonna lay, I knew what he meant. So I was like, it stuck with me, man. And we went inside the funeral home, and he asked me the second question. This began the transition. What do you want to put on your dad's headstone? What do you want to put in your dad's obituary? Now, this is something I hadn't talked to my father about, because he had always been in good health from what I knew. On the outside, he was 63, but looked 53.
Yeah.
Didn't have any health issues. Wasn't going to the hospital, not sick, anything. He just had a stroke, and 12 days later had that blood clot that took him. So, like, I didn't have any time to prepare or ask him what he wanted on these kind of things. So he's asking me, like, what do you want on the headstone? And I was like, I really don't know. What would he want? What would he want in his obituary and things like this? But my mind was still out there at that gravesite. Here's where you gonna lay. Like, that's all I could think about. And then I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna lay out there, then a funeral director's gonna be asking, what do you want on Billy's headstone? What do you want in his obituary? And I started thinking about it. I was like, if I died right now, what would they put on the headstone? What would they put in this obituary? Here lies a man that ran over anybody that got in his way just so he could get to the top in the music. The music business, didn't care about nobody, didn't help nobody, served himself, made it rain in the strip club. Like what kind of legacy is that, right? Like, literally, that's what I was saying. I was like, man, I wouldn't really want anybody to read that. You know what I'm saying? And then 2 days later after that, the third part of the equation, man, they had my father laid out at the wake, right? And this is where everybody comes up and says something about him, about how he affected their life. And growing up, my father was an alcoholic. He struggled really, really bad for like 7 or 8 years and just could not beat it. He tried everything with the recovery centers, lockdown, you name it. He went to everything he could do to try to get over this addiction of alcohol. It ran in, on his side of the family. And he did not stop. He could not stop. In my senior year, my mother filed the paperwork, divorce paperwork for him. And from that day forward, the day he got the paperwork divorce, he never drank again. He had a strong why now. He had to get his family back, had to get his son back. And he stopped from that single day. We tried everything. But the day he got that paperwork, that was the last time he drank.
It's all different.
So the last 15 years of his life, he didn't drink. And what he did, he got sober, and then he went out and started helping other people get off of what he had struggled with too, and bringing them home, bringing them out of that, helping people out of the struggle. So I'm at this wake, and I'm hearing all these stories that I had no clue about, because he never bragged about it, never mentioned it. It was all anonymous kind of type of mindset. And he's laid out, and people were coming up and like, oh, your dad came got me when I was on the side of the road drunk at 2:30 in the morning when no one would come get me, and I was about to go to jail. Your daddy came out in the middle of the night and came and got me, right? Another one said, your daddy bailed me out of jail at 4 in the morning when all my family gave up on me. Minister wouldn't even come get me. Everybody giving up, but your dad didn't give up, and now I'm sober. I've been sober for 6 years. Another one said, me and my wife were at the divorce table about to sign the paperwork, and your daddy said, don't do it. And we still together 10 years later. Right? So like, I was hearing all these stories, and what was throwing me back was the people that were talking weren't mentioning any of the things that I had been chasing in life. Nobody said, oh, your daddy had nice rims. You know what I mean? Nobody said, boy, your daddy sure could make it rain. You know what I'm saying? Like, boy, did you see the size of your daddy's watch or his chain? Like, that stuff, nobody was talking about that, man. So like, I realized, I was like, hold on, man, I got this all wrong. You know what I mean? My whole mindset, my goals, my objectives, and the things I'm chasing, man, are all wrong here. Nobody's mentioning that. The only thing they're mentioning it is, the only value is what you sow into somebody else. That's the real net worth. And that's what I learned. And I'm like, okay, hold on, bro. Like, I'm not against money, bro. Like, I just had it in the wrong place. Like, I had people way down here somewhere, and I had me and money way up here. Now, God's not against money. Us owning things, but he is against those us own, the things that we own. He's not against that, but he's against those things owning us. You know what I'm saying? And exactly. I had to switch the order of that. I had to put people first. The real network, then me down here. You know what I'm saying? And once I made that switch, then it made sense, man. But up until that point in my life, I did not grasp that, and I learned it the hard way. So the only network we have is what we sow into those around us. So that's where the legacy come in. It's like, okay, what do you want your legacy to be? Every day when I get up, it's like, what do you want on the headstone, Billy? What do you want on that obituary, Billy? And make sure that every single day that I'm getting up, I'm working and building toward that ending that I want to have. And the thing is, most people never sit down and ask that question. My dad never asked that question. He didn't sit down and say, okay, how do I want this thing to end? I read this article about this famous author who just put out these best-selling books. Every one he released was a bestseller. So they sat down with him, did an interview, and they said, what is your secret? How do you do this? Like, how every book you write just hits? Like, what is your writing process? And he said, well, the first thing I do is I sit down and I write the last chapter first. This way I always know during the story where I'm going to end up. So I was like, oh, that's nice. The lesson right there. We got to write the last chapter of our life first. That way everything else will come in line to that. So I started like, okay, I want to impact lives, man. I want my life to mean something. I want to leave this world better than I found it. Not just be about me. I don't want it to be shallow. I want to be alive, and I want to make a difference. Now, start with that in mind, then figure out later on, we could figure out how to, generate revenue and things like that to live and all that, the realities of life. But at least start with the outcomes that you want to accomplish at the end, man, and work yourself back, reverse engineer it back to where you are now. And At times that I was doing that, like there when my father passed away, I wasn't doing any of this. Like what I'm doing today, I wasn't doing any of this. But the question had been introduced into my environment.
Yep.
You know, how do you want this thing to end? What do you want your legacy to be? You know, what do you want them to say about you, Billy? What do you want in that obituary? Those things just kept churning. So my spirit, my soul, my mind began to work on those things. And I asked God every single day, what is my calling? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do in that 7 years? And it seemed like he was never answering. It seemed like he just wasn't paying attention to me asking that question. But it had already been set in motion. You know, he had already answered that. I just didn't understand it. But start with the end in mind. Anybody that's out there that listening right now, start with the end, because we can do everything right now, but if we get the ending wrong, it's all for nothing.
It's not how you start; it's how you finish.
Yeah, I mean, I could be #1 in the rap game like I was, but if I got the ending wrong, what does it matter? You know what I'm saying? So like,
I was gonna say, dude, what hit me hard is Juice WRLD. You know Juice WRLD?
Exactly.
Just watch him young. He's rapping about that stuff. He's got the whole world, and then he's gone. You know, I feel like just like you're talking about, like, you know, you had what the world was telling you what you should have. Is I feel like right now we're in such a time, right? We're keeping people entertained just enough so they don't want to break out of where they're at. You know, they got enough music, they got enough Netflix, they got enough drugs, they got enough alcohol to where they're stuck kind of, you know, at this point to where they don't have to go or do anything because they're not satisfied. Just like, because you were talking about, right? When you had all that stuff, there was an empty hole.
Right. Yeah, there was a distraction, man. And the crazy thing, you mentioned Juice WRLD, man. You know, after seeing my father struggle with the addiction the way he did when I was young, I made that vow. I'm like, I'm gonna break this cycle, because all my uncles were, you know, alcoholics. My grandfather was alcoholic. And I'm like, I'm gonna break the cycle. Like, I'm not gonna be one. I saw enough that I was like, nah, I don't want this. You know, I don't want to live like this. So I made that commitment back then that I wouldn't turn out, you know, like my father. I still drank and dabbled here and there in high school, you know, but it was always in the back of my mind, like, bro, you can't let that get a hold of you. You know, you going home to your dad. You know what that's gonna be like tonight. You can't let this thing get you. You know, I was giving in the peer pressure here and there, but I knew that wasn't the outcome that I wanted. So like, I pretty much stayed away from, you know, the drugs and the alcohol myself, but being in the music business, man, it's all around me. I mean, that's the environment that's the thing. But the thing was, I was not using drugs and I was not drinking, but I sure as heck was promoting it with my mouth. See, my mouth is the gift. God gives us all a gift, right? A talent, natural ability, and mine was speaking, right? Rapping, writing. These are my gifts. And the enemy knew I had a gift too. So the war is over your gift. The enemy's trying to get your gift, and God is trying to use your gift. And at this point in time in my life, the enemy had full control of my gift. And I was the biggest promoter of drugs and alcohol with my mouth. Man, I was the walking billboard advertising marketing strategy of the enemy, man. And I was good. I had #1 song called Pop a Pill. I didn't even do drugs. I didn't even do drugs. I had a #1 song, Pop a Pill. I didn't even do drugs. And I hated that environment, man. But I would say anything, do anything to get on, to do what, you know, to get that validation. Yeah, to be relevant. And they told me, look, this is when drug rap really just kind of really got hot back in, you know, the early 2000s. Like, look, you know, if you talk about pills and Molly and X, oh boy, they own this. So like, I'm a writer. So I was like, that's easy. I can do that. So I just started, you know, tapping into that world. I could take, you know, word photographs of environments and then get it captured in songs and poetry or whatever. So I grabbed that scene and I'm out there just on stage promoting this every single night. But I'm torn because inside I'm like, man, I don't want nothing to do with this. You know what I mean? I'm in environments, man, and doing this music every single night in environments where they all high, they all packing guns, they all drunk, they doing things that inside I know is wrong, because my mom and dad raised me right. Even though I had strayed, I knew this stuff was wrong. But I was sacrificing sacrificing the right for the glory, for the fame, for the accolades, for the voice, for the acknowledgement. You know what I'm saying? And but eventually I'd had enough, because somewhere like around 2001, I came across Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was the turning point reading wise. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Kiyosaki.
That's right. I read that book, and he talked about educating yourself. You know, the things that they don't teach us in high school, you know, about money, about life, about, you know, success and things like that. And you need to self-educate, just dive into study and the things, the personal development. So I began to take that on. I adopted that philosophy, and that was my philosophy from then on, was like, okay, you need to educate yourself. You need to read. So from like 2001 to the end of 2005, I read 3 hours every single day. I went to the bookstore every single day, and I would go to the bookstore, and I'd grab 3 or 4 different types of books in different areas, like on philosophy, religion, self-help, business, whatever. I'd have 4 or 5 books. I'd go in there, set my clock on the phone, 20 minutes, boom, and I'd start reading this book, taking notes. When that was done, I'd bring the next book and do the same thing. I did this every single day, not knowing that I was prepping for what I'm doing now.
Yep.
I just enjoyed reading and feeding my mind. So around 2005, 2006, I got these, there's number one record, Papa Pill, man. And there's this cognitive dissonance going on the inside of me because I don't like drugs, I don't do drugs, and I don't want to be in this environment. Yeah. But I didn't write the last chapter of my music career, because if I'd have wrote that chapter, I would have said, I don't want to, be in those environments. Like before you start music, let's say you say, okay, what kind of environment do I want to be performing my music in? What kind of lifestyle do I want to live? Do I want to be in the studio every day, or do I want to be out doing live shows? Do I want to be at the Hard Rock, or do I want to be at a little coffee shop, or I want to be in the thug environment? Whatever. Yeah. I didn't do that. It was just like, let me get on.
Just whatever I can get.
Right. And what happened was I was massively successful living in an environment that I had no appetite or palate for. Everyone around me a junkie, and I'm like, bro, I can't stand that, because I don't want to do that. Yeah. I don't want that around me like that, But man, they paying me good money to come over there and do a 15-minute show. They paying me grands and grands to come do it, and I would do it. But come around 2005, 2006, I was like, okay, in the daytime, I'm reading some of the most powerful books ever written, Marcus Aurelius, and things like this, right? Yeah. The Art of War and Machiavelli and all these kind of things, and Think and Grow Rich. And then at nighttime, man, I'm saying this foolishness with my mouth, ignorance, right? And I'm like, you can't keep saying this, because it's like one thing when you're saying this stuff and you don't know no better, and you don't have this stuff in you. Yep. But once you get that truth in you, you can't say that stuff no more. Because every time you say something foolishness and you got wisdom in you, it's like a big gong being hit. Like, better than that.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, right. Once I started reading Solomon, I'm like, how you going to go out and say this foolishness? You sat down with the king, you know what I mean? Like, and you talking like cousins, man. So like, it began to tear at me. So finally, at the very end of my career, I was like, no more of this, man. And I slowly started phasing out the cussing, because I was, really bad cussing, gang thugs and all that. I started fading that out. I started changing the topics and conversations and theme of my music, and switching kind of like, okay, Lord, show me who I am. Like, I had started reading the Bible around 2003, but I hadn't fully accepted him. Like, I'd be in the strip club saying Papa Pill, right, doing my song. But me and my team, before we go out there, we'd say a prayer before I went out and said Papa Pill, right? Like, this was my mindset. I was like a baby Christian. I was a baby Christian. So, like, God understood. I know he probably was like, yeah.
Now was that that before the panic attack started? Yeah.
This was when I was doing music. This is 2003, 4, 5. When I was in heavy in the shows and all that. The panic attacks did happen until my dad died. My dad died on December 30th, 2007. So from after that, like from 2008 all the way on, bro, it was like wartime. But up until this point, man, I was seeking myself and finding, what God had, called me to do.
No, and even like we're talking about the beginning, like every day is a battle, right? A war over our minds. It seems it seems just so, like, you look at it now, and as you're growing, right? Because your mind is going to produce whatever you put in it, right? So you're putting the truth, you're putting that stuff, like you have to get a harvest. It's like, it's a law of nature, right?
Right.
And so that truth is growing, you're becoming different. And it seems to me, it's just like, dang, like that one incident with, with such a tragic incident with your father passing away was almost like a way for, the devil to come in and try to steal, because he knew what you were about to be doing. Because I feel like you wouldn't have had those panic attacks if you weren't on the path that you were going. Because he wanted to steal that gift, like your mouth, like he wanted to take you out, because he knew what was growing. Because for him, like the devil's, he's not like omnipresent, but he's a smart dude, right? So he's watching you read books, he's watching you put this stuff in you. He's like, it's a matter of time before Billy's not with us no more. He ain't gonna be promoting us no more.
Exactly.
This in the same, like, I go back to the way that you do, anything is the way that you do everything. So the same way that you're winning and you're blowing up over here, it's like, dang, if Billy does that for the opposite team, we don't want that. We don't want Billy
Exactly.
playing for the opposite team. Let's take him out.
Exactly. And, you know, it's kind of surreal when I was going through it, man. It was just like, this can't be happening. Like, 'cause, you know, one day everything's fine. Next day it's like, what happened? You know what I mean? And I'm out there on those blocks and these years are going by and I'm losing days. And I'm just like, man, my life is slipping away. And God moved on me, though, in my spirit. And he was, you know, because I kept saying, I need more faith. Because, you know, we hear panic is fear. So that means we don't have, you know, faith. And God moved on me. It's like, no, you got plenty of faith. It's just pointed in the wrong direction because I had faith, but I had faith in what the enemy was telling me was going to happen. Like he was the enemy in my mind, the panic attack. My thing that I was struggling with was my health, right? I seen my dad die. So the thing was, I'm going to die. So I was always trying to protect myself from the unexpected. Like he died unexpected. So now I don't trust, even though I'm in peace and everything is good in my day, right? I don't trust it because at any point in time I could die. Any point in time I could start breathing wrong and just like he did, I didn't trust anything. So like I stayed on alert the whole time, right? With this belief, this faith that the enemy was going to come. Because the enemy's telling me this is going to be your life. This is your ending. This is how you're going to go. And I got you, right? He's telling me this stuff. But God moved on me and was like, look, you got faith, man. Your faith is just in the enemy's message and what he's telling you. You know, if fear and panic and these things can destroy and rob and take away everything from your life, then the reverse must be true, right? We have polarity. If you got a positive, you got a negative, right? So if fear can take away and destroy everything, then faith in the right direction must be able to construct and build and restore everything that's been told, you know, been taken. So God had revealed that, like, look, you've got faith. You just need to reverse it and be just as aggressive as you are with those panic attacks. You need to be aggressive in faith for me. And if you get to that point, I can use you and do things that other people can't do. If you step into your calling with that aggression that you have with panic attacks, but aggression in faith and boldness, I will build through you. So like I had this massive like understanding, like, ooh, you know, I get it now, right?
Yeah.
You know, I had to understand the negative way before I could ever understand the positive way. And that's why I'm so bold and aggressive now, is because I had it then just in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? The enemy put that in me, but God turned that same energy around and said, okay, now use that for building, you know, what I'm going to have you doing. And the boldness and the aggression is the one thing I would say that really contributed to a lot of the success that I'm doing now. And he is totally responsible for that, man. And, you know, it's something that I couldn't do on my own, man.
No, so for me in my life, because I mean, for me, it's always a daily battle, right? I put out a video today. I just started doing some TikTok stuff, talking about motivation, because my motivation, some days I'm on top of the world. Some days I don't feel like doing anything, right? But I take that consistent action every day. And, you know, when because I've got a list of things I say to myself 5 times a day. And one of them, you know, I'm a champion, I'm a king, right? And so when I'm not feeling like it, and I walk into a situation, maybe I'm walking into a presentation, I'm like, oh man, I'm tired. I only slept 3 hours because my son got me up all night. It's like, no. You told you're a king, you're a champion. How does a king and a champion walk? And so for me, it's like, all right, I got to put my body up, because it's like, I still not going to feel like it, but the outcome that I get is the same, whether I felt like it or not. Like you hop on that treadmill, whether you feel like it for that 45 minutes, you're going to get the same outcome. So for me, it's like, all right, if I am a champion, I'm a king, I'm gonna go ahead and walk like it. I'm gonna hold my head up like it, whether I feel like it or not. And usually those feelings come after. So how is it with you in your life? Like, you know, you came out of that, but even like on the daily, it's like, all right, you know, do you have to keep talking to yourself? Like, who's your Billy Alsbrooks in your life that keeps you motivated?
Well, the one thing that made the biggest impact was the shift that I learned. There's difference between like being in a profession than it being an identity. Because like you said, okay, I put on the rapper. That was my profession. My identity is I'm a champion, bro. No matter what happened to me in life, bro, like I'm finna grind. I'm finna overcome this thing. I'm finna trust in God. That's my identity, right? Like you said, the king and you. So like the days you don't feel like it, what's that got to do with it, right? That's why I say to myself, feelings ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm a king, bro. I'm a champion. Yes, I don't feel like it, but that's why I'm a champion, because I can push through on those days that I don't feel like. The common peasant is going to lay down on those days that they don't feel like. A king is going to be like, bro, I'm a king every single day. I can't take the crown off. I can't take the robe off, because that's who I am. See, it's different when you adopt an identity as opposed to, you know, the profession, and get out of that kind of thinking back to who I am. Like, who am I? Like, What do I stand for? What are my core values? What I believe in? What do I want to be known for? What words do I want to be used to describe me? And when you move into this realm, then you're strong and rooted in power, man. And you can get up every single day, even when you don't feel like it.
Yep.
And you can still have the best days and still perform at, peak and high performance levels, man. So it's understanding your identity first. And most people don't understand their identity. When I was going through that 7-year struggle, I had lost my identity because I couldn't rap. I couldn't do anything. I literally spent, at one point in time, I spent 2 weeks in my bedroom without ever coming out. Because I was scared if I come out the bedroom, I was going to have a panic attack, which I did. So the only thing I controlled was where I had the panic attacks. So the enemy went from, just totally taking over my life. I went from being on stage with a mic in my hand in front of 20,000 people to being in my bedroom for 2 weeks at a time, scared to come out because of a shadow, something that didn't even happen. Like, just my mind would be like, if I go out there, I'm going to die. If I go out there, I'm going to have a heart attack. If I go out there, I'm going to panic. I'm going to go to the hospital, whatever. So like, it just, the whole walls of my life closed in on me, man. And that's what the enemy tries to do. And I had forgot who I was, right? I forgot, no, man, this ain't who you are. Growing up, you was a martial artist, bro. You took no matter how big somebody was, how tall they was, bro, you took them on head on because that's who you are. That's your identity, bro. You grew up, the first cassette tape you ever owned, Billy, was Rocky. Your parents got you Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, because you gravitated to that because Rocky was you. You the fighter, you the champion. Maybe you're not the most talented. Maybe you're not you don't have the biggest size. Maybe you don't have the best ability. But bro, on the inside, there's a heart in there that refuses to die, that refuses to lose, that refuses to quit. And in that 7-year cycle, I forgot that. I forgot that identity.
You got a new one now.
Yeah, exactly. But I had to awaken to that. See, like God brought me back to like, bro, don't forget who you are. You're wonderful, fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't forget, I'm with you. Once you accept Christ, bro, you got this power in you that cannot be stopped, cannot be denied, cannot be suppressed, cannot be contained. And we don't understand the power that we functioning in. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world, bro. Like, and when you really, really understand that and don't just say it from the mind or from the mouth, but really understand the depth of that, bro, you don't fear anymore. Bold is the one who understands the power of their God. Yeah. Like with this virus, bro, I ain't bowing down to that virus because I know the God that's in me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Some people call that foolishness on the outside of the world, but they don't understand the power of God. I get it. They don't understand the power of God. But once you do, you don't fear no virus, bro. The virus don't want none of this. The virus, I'm telling you, when you understand that God is in you, greater is he that is in me, the heat is in the world. Can a virus get God sick? No. But you got to understand that. And that's what he talks about, like, my people perish for a lack of knowledge, understanding who they are. Self-awareness is the key, man. If you don't understand who you are in Christ, who your maker is, and the power that's on the inside of you, you'll always be playing with limitations. But once you awaken to that person that's on the inside and the power that God planted in you, man, then you're ready to seize and conquer the world. So, like, the first thing we got to do is wake up to that identity. Like you're talking about, once, man, you won't be scared to take a risk in business because you be like, man, even when I fail, I win.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah, even when I fail, God opens 10 other doors to make up for that.
Exactly, and it's going to work out no matter what, whether I feel like it. And dude, so going back to like identity, because you go back to your story, right? You chose that identity. You said, I see my father, struggle with alcoholism. I'm not going to do that, right? So you chose that identity.
That's
so
right.
how can people choose their identity? Because you chose that and it followed you. It followed you because you didn't have the same struggle with it maybe that a lot of people did because you chose that identity. What do people need to do to be able to develop a new identity?
It starts with questions, man. Questions will take you wherever you want to go. You just got to ask yourself the right question. So I say first, like, who do I want to be? What environment do I want to live in every single day? See, these questions I didn't ask when I was doing music. See, and had I just asked those right questions, my music career would have been totally different. You know what I'm saying? So, like, every single day you say, what sets me on fire? Like, if money's out of the equation, right, and it has nothing to do with it, what sets me on fire? What do I want to do from the moment I get up to the moment I go to bed? What would I hate going to sleep? What would I be doing that I hated to go to sleep, that I had to stop doing it and go to bed? And that's like what I'm doing right now, man. I love this, bro. I have the hardest time at night because I record at night. I have the hardest time going to sleep. It be 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, because, bro, I be on this high doing the thing God called me to do. Because I tell people this: there's no high, there's no drug, there's no sex comparable to being in the center of your calling. And when you get in there, it's just like, oh, and it's never ending. It's not like a drug where you get high 10 minutes and it comes down. Man, I get on my calling. I get into writing. I get into speaking on that mic. And man, the energy just flows and the high just comes over me, man. And you just want to stay in that thing. And that's the thing you got to find. Whatever it is that you've been called to do, when you do it, you're going to feel this way. Yep. So you got to ask these questions like, who do I want to be? What is the core makeup of me? What are my core values, my top 5 core values? What I stand for, because a person that don't stand for something will fall for anything. That's you gotta feel like I don't mess around in shady deals. I don't cross people. I don't want that kind of reputation, bro. Where if you say my name, people kind of like, can't trust that. I don't want that. I want them to say, bro, his name is Gold. If he tell you he gonna do it, bro, rest assured you good. Like good, you gotta understand who you want to be and what it is that you're made for. And the thing that turned the point with me when I started doing this motivation, I didn't understand the gravity of what God was doing. I didn't get in and be like, okay, I'm gonna make a career out of this. I wrote Blessed and Unstoppable in 2016, and I knew I had something that in me that was greater than what I was doing. I had my own business, being an entrepreneur. Even when I got out of music, I had cell phone stores all over town. Urban hats and shirts and like CD stores and all that stuff. My old life, I was still functioning in, but I knew it was time to change. I knew it was time to, move on, but I didn't know who that person was. Like, I didn't know, okay, God, you brought me out of it. You brought me out of the darkness. I've written a book now. You put this stuff in me. What I do now? So I ended up, the last day I wrote the last page of that book, I said that when I finish this book, I'm going to sell these businesses and I'm going to get on to doing what sets me on fire. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to trust God that he's going to show me. So I sold the businesses in November 2016, not knowing where I was going to land. And this was the first, because up until this point in my life, I always had to know I was jumping to a lily pad before I would move. Like I always had to know what was ahead before next? I would make the move. Like I wouldn't close this business until I had another one up and running. Like I wouldn't just step out in faith. But, I had to have everything lined up. I had to know the answers and all that before I moved. Yep. This time I was like, you know what? I trust you. I don't understand anything, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to step out in faith. I shut the ministry down, had the book, and I just had the book sitting there for 2 to 3 months. And I was like, I got to sell this book, but I don't know what how I'm going to do it or whatever. And something came to me. It's like, remember when you had those panic attacks and you used to walk around the block? And certain days you'd be wearing your headphones and you put on motivation to get through the day. And I'd be like, yeah, I remember that. And then I started thinking about it, I was like, man, I remember back then when I was on the block and listening to motivation, I was like, I could do that. Because I come from that world. I know how to record. I know music. I know personal development because I've been reading it for 10, 15 years now, right? Because that's all I've been doing, trying to get over the sickness. I've been reading and studying the mind and all this kind of stuff. I was like, I had the ability, I had the mouthpiece, but what would I sound like doing it on the mic? Like, I didn't know that part, but I knew it resonated. Like, something in me resonated. So I think it was January, the end of January that 2017, I made my first little message. I did like a 1 minute. I wanted to test it out as a producer. I was like, I need to hear my tone of my voice and the way I talk and to see if it's going to work or not. Yep. Right? So I put on like Drake energy beat, the energy, right?
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
And I only had 1 minute because back this before I was even on YouTube. Instagram will let you put 60-second video clip on.
Oh yeah, back before IGTV.
Yeah,
yep.
Right. So I'm like, okay, let's try it out. So I just put it on in the studio. Just started kind of freestyling about faith over the top of it. Just like I just wanted to hear my tone, talking and not rapping, but talking, like preaching and teaching and doing motivational speaking. So I listened to it and I was like, it'll work. Like I was like, it was okay. You know what I mean?
Not bad.
Like yeah, I was like, no, I could hear as a producer because I produced for years with multi-gold and platinum acts, man, everybody. So like I knew the tone was right. I was like, okay, that'll work, but you're gonna have to perfect it. You're gonna have to mold and shape and develop and all that. It'll work. But I wasn't thinking like, man, you finna go around the globe and speak and all that. I was just gonna put a few videos out. I wasn't looking at it like a career. I wasn't looking like I'm a motivational speaker. None of that. Because if you told me like I'm gonna have to get up and speak in front of a bunch of people, I'd have been like, you crazy, because I'm not gonna do that. Now I didn't mind doing it with rap because I had, dancers behind me, hype men, the lights and music, and you can kind of hide in the environment. Yeah, you know what I mean? But to stand up there, no music, no nothing, to be on the stage and just speaking to people, and they all looking at you for 30 minutes, an hour at a time, I was like, nah, that don't interest me. Like I went to ministry school not to be a minister. I went to ministry school to learn more about the word so that I could get my healing. Because I'd been in a regular church and sitting there week after week after week, and I didn't see any progress in my healing. But I knew God's word was true, right? I'm like, God's word is true. So it's not his problem. It's my problem, or the teaching's problem, and my understanding of the word's problem. So I was like, if I go to ministry school, maybe I'll get a deeper level of understanding, and I can find what God is trying to do through me and heal me, right? So it wasn't to go when I went to ministry school, like, oh, you're going to go out and preach.
Yeah, no, you same way for me. I get it. Yeah.
Bro, I was like, bro, it was just like self-survival. Like, I'm just trying to breathe today. Like, I just want to be able to make it through the day, one day without having to go to the hospital. Let me just have one peaceful day. Let me find that day. But later on, this would come back to play because that's part of the foundation of what I do today. But 2017, I did that first video, and about 4 or 5 videos in, 6 videos in, I'm starting to really enjoy this thing. But the thing is, in my life now, I still haven't replaced my income from selling the businesses or anything like that. And nothing in my life on the outside reflects the champion on the inside of me. And all the knowledge, the Robert Kiyosaki books and the Think and Grow Rich, nothing on the outside looks like that, right? It looks like I hadn't read none of these books. And I couldn't understand the disconnect. I'm like, man, you above this. Like, why are you struggling like this? You know money, you know finance, you know entrepreneurism. Like, what's the problem? Why is it not clicking? And I remember having this, kind of heated argument. The enemy can get in anybody's mouth around you.
Oh,
right?
yeah. If they can't get in you, they get in somebody else you know.
And even people you love, man, they don't mean to, but the enemy can get in there. So I had this little heated argument, verbal, with the wife, man, about finances, because at this point in time I didn't have a check. This like 5 months now after I sold my businesses and things weren't looking right, and the enemy was getting in her because he knew my destiny. I was so close now. I'm at the mic. I done overcame all the panic. I'm at the gate now.
Yep.
The mic is right there, and he knows, and I don't know that. See, I didn't know how close I was, but he knew it. So he getting in there, and he's saying things through her to to try to get me to lay down, because I got to this crossroad, and I'm like, on the left is a paycheck, a 9-to-5, normal life, average living, have a vacation once a year, have somebody tell you what to do every single day and not be in your call and not feel alive, live a life with limitations, basically. Yep. And on the right side is the promises of God. You were meant for more, pressed down, shaken together.
One side is safe.
Yeah, right. And so I'm at this crossroads, like, which one are you going to do? Thank God, put this fire in you that you're above this, you know that you're meant for more, or are you going to buy into that, why don't you get a 9-to-5 like everyone else? Why don't you get a paycheck like everyone else? The enemy was speaking through her to say that. And I remember getting in that heated argument, and I went into my studio that night, and I was so angry because my life was not reflecting my identity. It was not reflecting my identity. And I was just about to cave, man. I knew I was like at this turning point, like, man, you better get it here or you're going to lose it. Right? I was at that crossroad in my life, but I'd always chose the right road up until that point in my life. I always dreamed big. And I was at that point where I was starting to go dream small and get back to reality, right? Like, I was at that crossroad, and I remember turning on the mic. There was instrumental piece. I had the piano playing, and I was so angry. And I remember, like, I got to remind myself who I am. And I got on the mic, and I just started saying, I was born a champion, raised a champion. I got champion in my bloodline. And I went through everything that was in me. The war, if you listen to that video, Inside the Mind of a Champion, that I do, you'll hear, like, me talking to myself back and forth. I call it the Inner Symphony, because the devil's saying, why don't you get a job like everyone else? Because I'm the head and not the tail, above, not below. I'd be talking back to myself. You know what I mean? You really believe all that stuff you saying? You know what I mean? Like, the enemy's saying all this stuff to me, and I'm talking back. And if you hear that piece that I do, that was exactly what was going on in my mind. All I did was just take it out and articulate exactly what was going on in my mind. And the craziest thing happened, because at this point in time, when I did that video, I had like 200 followers on YouTube. And most of that was my fam, the family, nobody listened.
Church people.
Nobody, not even that. Like, people in my church did nothing. I'm talking about,
I ain't
like,
following
people
Billy.
just, like, they just accidentally subscribed. They didn't even know what they were subscribing to, right? Because I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know what I was. Like, I couldn't articulate what the channel was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I had like 200 people, man, and I put that video out. The crazy thing happened, man, because, you know, God says death and life and the power of the tongue. And those that love us shall eat the fruits thereof. And I was speaking for once. I was speaking who I really was on the inside. And my mouth and my feet and the inside were all in alignment now, right? The champion in me was being speaking like a champion. I transitioned from a peasant to a king with my mouth. Boom, and started speaking it. And the craziest thing, when I sent that thing out through the airways, man, some big motivational channels got a hold of it. It went viral, millions of plays. My book started selling, man. The book been sold in 27 countries now, man.
That's incredible.
And the followers started to come, and then the mirror was held up. It's like God held the mirror up. Look at yourself. This is who you are. You haven't seen yourself. It's like we walk around all day and hadn't looked in the mirror, and then God brought the mirror over and said, look, this is who you are. This is who I made you to be. Look at yourself in this mirror. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget what your face looks like, because, you know, this is who I made you to be. Now act like it. You know, and by that message, man, it changed everything in my life. It sent me on that trajectory, you know, that I'm on today. But I had to traverse the dark, because so many times where I could have laid down, so many times things weren't happening, so many times it was a struggle, I could have took that easy route, you know. But I just kept listening to that symphony on the inside of greatness, bro. You meant for more. God, you know, greatness is in you. Greatness made you. You know what I'm saying? Greatness made you, therefore greatness is in you, bro. Don't bow down to that.
You can't be, I mean, if greatness did make you, you can't be anything else. And if you feel that anything else, it's a lie. You know, what you're talking about, that reminds me of that picture that goes around where it's like a little like lion cub looking in the water, and he sees
the lion.
You see a big old lion, you know what I mean? Like, cause that's really how it is, dude.
That's right. It's all about how you see yourself, man. And, you know, for 7 years, I felt guilty and defeated and beaten. I had a lot of guilt because my dad, the way he died, me and a nurse had moved him out of the bed to a wheelchair because the doctor suggested we do this. And when we moved him, that's what dislodged the clot that was in his leg, man. And 2 minutes later, he died. So I blame myself, bro. I was like, man, you know, you killed your daddy, and like, who are you to think anything good should happen to you? And like, I was beating myself up, and the enemy doing that, instead of saying, no, bro, you took a loss. You took a pain, you took a loss. The times is dark, but it has not changed who you are, nor has that crown that's on top of your head, the king that God made you to be, changed. It's not been removed. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't see that. In 7 years, and the devil wants to do everything in the world to block you from seeing who you truly are. Because if you ever realize who you are, he's done.
That's true. And, you know, it's all about, I was listening to one of your videos, because it really is all about the mind, man. So about a week ago, I had a dream, and in my dream, I'm sitting at a table and I'm eating all the best foods out there, right? In that dream, I could taste everything just like I could in real life. Like, I could actually taste the food. And so for me, that was just a representation of how much more real the mind is than even what we've got going around us. You know what I mean? That I could actually taste that food, right? So it's like, dang, all those other things just have to be receptors. Like, what am I receiving?
Right. It's all the way you processing it, because the outside really has no value, no sensation, no flavor, no nothing. It has to come through your mind, and your mind programs what that should feel like, taste like, smell like, be like, whatever it is. The way you frame it, then that's what it is. Exactly. You know, some people might think something is bitter, and another person might think it's sweet. So it's all like how you frame it, you know. And your mind has the ability to frame any situation destructively or constructively, bro. And when I was going through the struggle, I was framing everything in a deconstructive way, a destructive way that was destroying my life. The moment I switched that around and started framing it like, bro, that thing made me. That thing is gonna, you know, I'm a product of the struggle, man. And because of that, now I'm ready. Like, when I go out now, I don't fear nothing. When they say, you know, you're scared to get on stage and speak to, you know, thousands of people. No, man, I stared death down every single day. You think I'm scared to get on the stage, bro? Like, I've been in it. I said my last words 30 times. So you think I'm scared to get up there and say light, that God still moves? No, man. This is what I'm designed for. Put me in, coach. You know what I mean?
Put me in, coach. I'm ready.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready.
No, dude, I love it, man. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, because I know it's coming up on an hour, and I know your phone's probably blowing up. Man, I think that we got more in us, you know, maybe in the future for another interview. So I think it's incredible. What's the best way that people can find you?
As far as me, man, it's at Billy Alsbrooks, BILLYALSBROOKS. All my social media accounts are at Billy Alsbrooks. If you go to YouTube, it's the same thing, youtube.com/Billy Alsbrooks. I got 190 plus videos on there, audio messages. They're all free. You can put them on if you're going through the struggle, and it'll help you get up out of that struggle. It'll help you, find that thing on the inside of you and climb up out of it, man. Just make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. I guarantee you that it'll make a difference in you.
It'll change your life. I mean, there's no way about it. If people get on there and start, hitting those videos, you can't not change. That's all there is to it.
If you want to go deep and study, get my book. I got a real simplistic blueprint that anybody can follow and create almost instant change in their life. It's broken down into daily steps, 31 days. It takes you about 10 minutes a day. It's very, very simplistic and very written in a way that anybody can understand it. You don't have to be some Harvard grad to understand the book, but you can take that material. It's proven, time-tested stuff, rooted in the Word of God. You can take that stuff and move and change your life with the steps that I lay out in that book. Get the book if you hadn't already. It's blessedandunstoppable.com. You can get it right there, and it'll definitely change your life.
Yeah, no, dude, I bought the book. It's incredible. Take it through the day, and you get these for the screen right there. So
there you go. Blessed and unstoppable.
Blessed and unstoppable. So it's a movement. Really, I appreciate your time, my man.
I appreciate you having me on, man. Let's do this again, bro.